What happens next is up to every one of us. These are the fateful words uttered by Sir David Attenborough in the trailer for his new one-hour documentary, Extinction, The Facts. I must confess a certain fascination for the words of the elderly, especially those who are nearing the end of their lives. In saying this, I don't mean any ill will to Sir David. However, there is a sense that this documentary is something of a prophetic warning from someone who knows that time is not on his or our side. This is a voice to which we must attend. The broadcast of Attenborough's documentary comes at an especially important time in Australia. The federal government, led by Prime Minister Scott Morrison, seems to be edging closer and closer to a commitment to net zero emissions by 2050. But the politics of this are just diabolical. Prime Minister Morrison will be all too aware of the fate of his predecessors, whose bones lie scattered in the charnel house of climate and energy policy. So we might have to wait a very, very long time before a Prime Minister risks saying anything along the lines that I actually think most Australians believe, that we should get on with the job of reducing net emissions, and while we're at it, make the most of the opportunities that this will present. I mean, is there any nation on earth with a more pressing need to check the process of global warming than is Australia? And yet we're just incredibly vulnerable. However, we're also in the extraordinarily fortunate position of having everything needed to turn the transition to our advantage. We have the world's greatest supply of renewable energy. We have abundant natural resources. Massive value could be added to those resources here at home, if only we can get our act together. When countries with low labour costs, they're losing their competitive advantage to nations like Australia that are embracing automation. Machines work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, without holidays, without sick leave, without having to be fed, without any of the employment benefits that people reasonably expect to receive in a civilised society. Cheap, clean energy, abundant resources, automation. We could become an economic powerhouse in the world. Our challenge will be to ensure that those displaced by advances in technology share equitably in the benefits. Our challenge is to ensure that the period of transition is both just and orderly, so that every citizen is able to live a meaningful life. Well, if we can do that, then Australia's future could be one of almost unimaginable and sustainable prosperity. What happens next is up to every one of us. What happens next? It's not a matter for political leaders and governments they head. It's not a matter for corporations, nor for NGOs. What happens next is up to every one of us. Some people shrink from the implications of this, believing that the demand is just too great, that they're not cut out for heroics. But here's the thing. We can change the world by falling just on the right side of each decision we make. We don't have to be extraordinary. When enough of us make the most ordinary of decisions to do what is right, then the world changes, not just a little, but to the most remarkable degree. There's a fine line between doing nothing and taking the smallest of steps towards a better future. Yet in that difference might lie the fate of the world and the generations to come. What happens next is up to every one of us. So let me ask you, when it comes to ethics, how and where do you draw the line?